It's my pleasure to introduce Amy Uyeki, who's a dear friend, talented artist, animator, and also very active in HAPI, and help me out, Humboldt, Asians, and Pacific Islanders?
In solidarity.
In solidarity. And I'll let Amy share more about HAPI. And also her alter ego. You can share a little bit about that. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me. If you can't, just give me a signal. I'm not used to talking at this time of day, and I'm really impressed with all of you, not only for all the incredible work that you do, but for this Friday morning 7 a.m. thing when you are managing to have smiles on your faces and talk coherently. So I really applaud you all. And I'm here to talk about Humboldt Asians and Pacific Islanders in solidarity. And we can go to the next one. That was just a little fun thing. I want to explain the origins of HAPI and also what we've been doing in the last 2 years and what we're looking at for the future. So many of you haven't heard of us because we're really small, but we're trying to make an impact in the community. And we started actually in 2019, and I'll go back before that. In 2012, I made a documentary with Key TV, and it was a PBS documentary called Big Bands, Searchlight Serenade, Big Bands in the World War II Japanese-American incarceration camps. And this subject is very personal to me. Both my parents and their families were incarcerated during the war. My mom for 1.5 years and my dad for 3.5 years. And they were teenagers, and it was really hard. They couldn't understand. They were also American, and they couldn't understand why they were behind barbed wire. And one solace, one ray of sunshine that was brought into teenagers' lives was big band music, swing music, because that was their music. And so it gave them a connection to the outside as well. And there were over 20 bands that were created in the camps. And we got to interview 14 musicians, and it was a wonderful experience. So in 2012 and 13, we did some screenings up and down the coast. We stopped in San Jose, and in the Japantown there, we did a screening, and there was a big band performance. And then a couple years later, through that connection, this handsome young man, Franco Imperial, contacted me. He is the artistic director for San Jose Taiko. And they were wanting to put on a production using taiko drums to tell the story of big bands in the camps. And there were not taiko drums in the camps. You wonder how taiko drums can be a character, but if you were there at the performance, you could easily see it. It was electrifying. So I shared what I knew about the musicians, and he was able to contact some of the musicians who were still alive. Most of them have passed, unfortunately, since 2012. And the next year, they put on a performance in San Jose, and the following year, 2018, my husband Reese and I were able to go and see the performance. As you can see, it was outside. It was amazingly exciting, and what it is an immersive performance where the audience is part of the whole. You are living history, so you really feel like you're part of the set or whatever. It's very experiential. So after the performance, I asked Franco if he would come up and if he ever did a traveling show, if they would bring it up to Humboldt County. And he said, well, sure. Do you have an Asian American community there? I said, sure. And then thinking, well, I tried to find that Asian American community. And as you can see from the audience, there aren't that many of us in Humboldt County, but we do have a presence. I've lived here 35 years, and I contacted every Asian American I knew that I could reach. About half of those showed up. That's like about 25, 30. We had our first meeting at the Creamery, and what I found was there was so much interest in creating some kind of community. People wanted to celebrate the different cultures that falls underneath the Pan-Asian label. They also wanted to celebrate the differences in the diversity, and they wanted to support each other. They wanted to come in solidarity with other BIPOC groups, and also with first and second generation immigrants that are much more marginalized, and it's difficult for them to have a voice. So we are all excited. We also want to break bread, or as I say, eat rice, which is more common. So this is a group that was formed from the original larger group that we called Taiko Swing Humboldt. And this smaller group that my sister Terry is a part of, Patty Saito Heck, Vicky Ozaki, Alex Ozaki McNeil, our millennial, token millennial, Marilyn Pike Nicely. This is a group of really dynamic women, and they all filled a certain niche. Oh, I didn't include Aliong Lee and Pat Gerzik. So that was Team Taiko that soon became Team HAPI when we went on beyond what we did in Swingposium. So I thought I'd give you a taste of what Swingposium was about if you didn't know. Humboldt's Jazz Orchestra. So that was amazingly fun. We had a lot of community members participate, teenagers and college students, and I don't know if you know Tony Leong. He's at Safeway and also insurance, but he was amazing. He was our choreographer, and he was a great actor. We soon learned. So there were a lot of offshoots from that project that happened actually in 2019. One was Vicki had this brilliant idea of doing a pop-up museum that had artifacts from the families who were incarcerated during the war. So we gathered all these items, and we did a one-week museum at Cal Poly Library, and we called it Pieces of Our Lives. It appeared, this is still Cal Poly, but we also had it at the Clark Museum in March of 2020 when everyone was shut down with COVID, so you probably didn't see it. And through the Humboldt Area Foundation, we were able to create 10 banners that talk about the incarceration, and these are available for schools and libraries. So they're permanent banners, and we can also come and explain more. And sometimes in the past, my parents were able to talk about the experience, but we would have people whose parents have been incarcerated come talk about their family's experiences in camps. So if you know any high schools that would be interested in seeing these are available. Another offshoot of that original meeting is Humboldt Taiko Humboldt, or Humboldt Taiko, and Gary Roney, who's a CR employee, came to that first meeting, and he said, I want to start a Taiko group here in Humboldt County. And so Humboldt Taiko was born, and their first Their first performance was at Rockin' Ramen in 2019. Since then, you might have seen them around town at various events. This is at Obon Humboldt, and this is at the Lunar New Year celebration in downtown Eureka. He's so dynamic and really fun. So we also did things in solidarity with other groups. There was actually a nationwide rally and protest of the camps down at the border and the separation of families. And so we joined with Centro del Pueblo and NAACP in staging a protest in Fortuna. And then in December of 2019, we had ebb and flow at the Arcada Playhouse. Brenda Perez and Centro del Pueblo asked us to join in, and we had stories of Latinx and Asian immigration to Humboldt, including, as you probably are very familiar, the expulsion of the Chinese in the late 19th century and subsequent banishment of Asian Americans until the 1950s. As a result of a lot of misplaced anger and racism, there was a horrible shooting massacre in March of 2021 of 8 people, 6 of whom were Asian American women. And we felt in our small Asian American community and beyond that people were so dismayed about this, they didn't know what to do. So we held a peace vigil with the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, and we did a peaceful vigil, and it was a walking meditation. If you've ever been on the grounds, there's this wonderful path, and we had testimony to all the 6 women who had passed, and drumming, and we were able to raise $3,000 that went to the families of the victims. And then some of you were able to experience this. This is something that happened in Arcata, and Obon is something that is near and dear to many Japanese American in the United States, but also Japanese around the world, because it's a traditional summer festival that to honor our ancestors, and so there's a tie-in to Buddhist tradition, but it's also a wonderful bringing together of people, and lots of dance, lots of song, and when we all got together, this is one of the things that people wanted to do. Let's put on our own Obon. But what happened was COVID, and we didn't think that this could happen. So when things started to die down, we thought, well, let's get together and do this. So Marilyn Pike Nicely was the coordinator on this week. We started in April or something like that. It was really pretty late. And this is Rinban Sakamoto. He is the priest from San Jose Betzwin. When I contacted him about having someone come here, I think it was like 2 months before the event, and he said, "When is this event? Is this next year?" And well, I don't know if he just felt sorry for us, and he was also he contacted what I learned was the higher up, the Bishop Harada from the whole, Buddhist churches of America, thinking that we wanted a Buddhist church here, which we probably do, but the population probably doesn't you know, there is a Zen group. I don't want to say that we don't have a group, but official Buddhist church. And then he started, we talked further and he realized, oh, okay, I see what kind of community you are. You are one that may embrace the whole ideas of Buddhism and sharing of cultures and sharing of this wonderful tradition, but maybe not full force Buddhist church here. So he agreed to come, and he really talked about not only honoring our ancestors, but those who came on the land before us, and that fit in so well to I think what we are here. So it was a wonderful ceremony. We were so surprised. We didn't know how many people would come, and we thought maybe 200, 300. It was 800 at least. There were lots of people and lots of dancing. So you can see Totoro came, if you know Totoro. Yes, and that's Craig Kurumada, who is a wonderful dancer, and he led us in dancing. And as you can see, there people just came in kimono, and it's one of those things that a lot of people were saying, I don't want to culturally appropriate. There's none of that. If you have a HAPI coat, if you have a kimono, if you really want to dance, if you don't know how, just follow the moves. We want you there, and we want you in celebration. So here you can see some more dancers. There's Totoro. There's Franco came for this and also performed. And we had kids events, which we'll probably add more. This was a remembrance tree where everyone wrote something about someone they'd lost, and that was added. So another part of HAPI, though people are saying, how are these related? Eureka Chinatown Project, this was started by Brie Mercia de Souza, who lives in Eureka. She wanted to have a plaque that commemorated that former Chinatown was there. And so we all got together. She was a really driving force. There are now Chinatown tours. There is a mural that not only commemorates the Chinatown that was there, but celebrates the first person to return, first Chinese person to return was Ben Chen, and this has been a wonderful movement that's embraced by our community. There are wayfaring signs that tell the story about Chinatown. There was a Lunar Year celebration that was held in May, which doesn't exactly the beginning of Lunar New Year, but it's Humboldt County, so there's a little allowance. And also the weather's warmer, right? So there was a naming of the alley, Charlie Moon Way, and tours for everyone. This is our most recent project. We've been working on it for a year and a half, and we're going to just start fundraising for it. And this is a monument that will tell the story of the Chinese coming to this area and the expulsion, and then what happened afterwards in a bunch of markers. And hopefully it will be able to tell the story. Daryl Chin is a poet, and his poem's going to appear on there. There's our group. We found a site at First and E, and with the city of Eureka, who we are working with. So we've got a lot of interest, and we want to start fundraising for this. So here are upcoming projects. Karen knows about this because she was there at this first meeting with Stacy Atkins Salazar, who I believe her grandfather was aware of the Chinatowns that are here in Arcado. There were 2 of them. And we're just finding out more information about them. I'm not going to say where they are because I don't want to, I don't know how much I'm supposed to share, but there's a lot of interest in exploring what happened, because the expulsion did happen a year later, and it's what is in all the history books as they did it the Eureka method, which is supposedly they, sort of chase everybody out of town without violence. But threat of violence and, you know, a gallows there, that, I don't know if that is a nonviolent way of expulsion. I don't think there's any nonviolent way of expulsion, but that is in Arcata's history as well. So that's going to be explored. Karen?
Amy, thanks for bringing this up. And if anybody does, we are really in an exploratory phase. So if any of you, some of you have been here, or know people that have been here a very, very long time, if you could start asking relatives, seniors, elders in your community that might know of history, you know, of Chinese influence here in Arcata or Asian influence here in Arcata, now is the time. And just feel free to reach out to me or to Amy or to Stacy.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And that's, you know, there are some old timers here that, and I was really surprised that Stacy, I think her grandfather has passed, but she remembers him telling stories. So we'd really like to know, because there isn't much information about Arcata at all. So as I mentioned, the fundraising that we're doing, possible Asian American Film Night. My daughter has a film. That's one of the reasons why it's up there. That she just got, but it's about it's called Many Moons, and it's about the people who were still here, the Chinese people who were still here. And it turns out it wasn't just Charlie Moon who was the only Chinaman who was here. There were others as well. The Asian Lunar Festival that will again take place in May, and also Humboldt, which will be in August. So those are some of the things coming up. Here's if you want to contact us, and also we have some. I think if you're interested, I've got I have these little things where you can. If you want to fill these out, if you want more information, you can fill them out, give them back to me, and then you can keep this little thing here, that, which will, great.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you very much. Any questions? All right.